More. Came back and said, go get your hair cut again, and you're paying for it.
Oh, that's great.
But still, those days it was.
Yeah.
And actually, our hair is probably as long as it was back.
All right, good morning, everybody. Let's get started. Call the meeting to order of the Binghamton Local Development Corporation. The first item is the approval of the minutes. You should have the minutes from the February 24th meeting in your packet. Take a few seconds to review those, and then I'll welcome a motion as soon as anyone's ready.
Motion from Ron?
I move.
Second. Any discussion, any comments or questions?
Is there an extra packet?
Yeah, I can give her.
Susan.
You can take
Susan,
Susan.
I can
Yep,
get
yep.
Since I read it, why?
it. Memorize it.
Yeah. All right, all in favor? The 2022 February financial report. Rachel?
Okay. So we start on page 4 with the restricted account. The end of month balance in the restricted account is $1,120,120.32. We will skip over to page 6 for the UDAG account. The end of month balance in the UDAG account is $1,194,050.85. And we want to skip to, so the unrestricted account has had no activity on page 8. The triad account on page 9 has had no activity. The mayor's veterans account on page 10 has had no activity, and the grant account on page 11 has had no activity. On the delinquency page, we've got the same loans that we had last month that are in default. I believe that on the receivables, okay, so if we skip back to page 7 for the receivables, and 142 Fort Street is late by 1 month. Everyone else is paid. Yeah, they are Orlando's building. They generally, they'll like get about 2 months behind, and then they'll pay 2 months, and then they'll, they reliably pay about a month late. So I'm not terribly concerned, but I have been in contact with them. So we expect them to pay. So the delinquency percentage of all loans that are not designated non-performing is 0.11. And everything else looks very good.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
The facade loans of Garland LLC,
Yes,
they have the money,
they,
they have the 44,000.
so they've got the first 2 disbursements.
Right.
They have received and they have paid their contractor. So there is 1 more disbursement before they start paying.
So they don't pay even interest on what they already have?
According to the note, I believe that we do all the disbursements and then they start to pay it back.
And I thought there was a time limit on that.
I think there is, and I think it's a year.
The Tom Haynes time limit.
The time.
No, I mean, he had done something, extended it way out, and that's what we had talked about it before.
Yeah, let me go back and I'll
Because
check the note and see what the dates exactly are, but I think that they have
That's
what, a
almost
year
a year
to
and
get.
a half. They have the money, whatever they've done with it, they still could be making interest on it, or we could be getting paid back already.
It'll be just in the second disbursement, right? Yeah, in January, they got their second disbursement.
Well, whatever they.
So yeah, let me go back and I'll check the terms of the loan agreement. I can send that to you, and we can figure out what the date is that exactly they're supposed to.
Well, that's
finish.
something we should work on, putting in forth going forward. If we do some loans and grants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
talk about it when we talk about our general change, potential changes to our loan portfolio, because there's the question of, yes, we could be getting interest back and getting that account paid up, but is it better to be supporting this project and letting them, get it actually done first? Like, what's more important, getting the money out the door to them or getting our interest back? And I think it depends on the loan and what,
I think there's a nice combination of both.
I don't disagree.
And there's no other lending institution that would not make them pay interest from the day that they got any money. I mean,
it's
I
just a
can
question of
see
how
a
competitive we
6-month
wanna be.
moratorium.
I think, am I right? This one was a little funky because they can't do most of the project for most of the year. They can only
Right.
do it during certain. So they were waiting on the season to change.
Yep, that's
For
correct.
some of the delay.
Contractor worked through January and he stopped. So we had some warm weather.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a
in early
question we can ask when
January,
we are doing loans moving forward, is how do we want to structure each of them? I know Patrick had made the point that perhaps we should be more flexible in our terms for each specific loan, doing what's right for each specific loan. So depending on the loan, we could be getting paid back earlier if it makes sense. Instead of having like a generic term of everyone has to be paying interest throughout the loan period.
Are they supposed to?
Yeah,
be
but
this-
she had the money. And its closing date was 8/31/20. And don't get me wrong, especially her, she's
course, yeah.
always been terrific.
Yeah.
It would seem that no matter what we gave her, say you gave her half.
You'd think it would already be.
I mean, her contractors would not let her go that long without paying if they've done work.
No, they were calling us very frequently. No, absolutely. I think it's worth exploring for each individual loan what makes sense. But yeah, if you can check the terms and conditions of this one specifically, just to see when they're supposed to be paying back, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
But point well taken. We're trying to create this revolving loan and then put money back into our ability to loan additional.
And I wasn't being offensive to
Nope.
Tom Haynes either, but he did a facade and he took forever not to get to the point that you're supposed to start paying it back.
Right.
We finally went to him and, you remember that at all, Joe?
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, that's just,
We'll look.
What about those green microphones? Ariel Hendricks.
Ariel Hendricks has still not paid. She is technically in default. So we have notified her that we reserve the right to start the legal process of collections. So I believe we're gonna need to get together with court counsel and find out like what the next steps
Is her
are.
business still in practice or?
Yes, her business is still in practice.
Very much so.
Yes, she has a lot of emails from me asking if she could make partial payments and
What is her business?
she owns a gym.
Did you?
so do we have a personal guarantee
Yes.
so we can come up with a date to say we are going to go after your personal. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's still somebody else's.
Ideally, she should, $5,000, you should be paying it back. I'm hoping.
$100 a month would be a
Exactly,
satisfaction.
That's what I'm saying. If she was willing to pay something once, let's figure it out.
And she
Or
and I did
threaten with,
discuss.
We have a
We
personal
have, yeah, we have
guarantee.
the right to.
Yeah, so all of that was in the letter that she received, letting her know that she was in default. But yeah, we talked about doing partial payments in November. Nothing really ever came of that. And I've tried to reach out since then and she's just sort of, she hasn't responded. So.
Too busy making money to pay back the loan.
I will say for a while, she was kind of MIA in terms of her social media presence and advertising her business. In the past few weeks, it's picked back up again. So I'm optimistic that means that she's bringing money in and can hopefully start paying us back. But
It's a gymnasium.
yeah, it's
somewhere on
just
Clinton
personal
Street.
training.
Where is that?
It's
Is
on
that
Clinton
downtown?
Street. It's
Yeah.
the former, the library that was over on the north side, over near the First Ward.
That
Senior
big
Citizen Center.
fitness RX, is that what it is?
Yeah.
The
Fitness
Across from
RX
St.
sign?
Cyril's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's 100 different things over the years.
Right.
I wish her well. It's just,
Yeah, well, I'm hoping
I
that
mean, they
as
don't,
business
she doesn't
picks
train
up-
people that don't pay her.
Right.
It's a pretty profitable business. this thing. It's
Plus cash.
Yeah, one of those.
a lot of people don't. You know, what Zachary Salisbury,
MIA.
It's totally in there.
his business gone out of business.
Yeah, I
His
think-
What's the
business.
quality of the mail?
That was Zach Salisbury. He was wanting to do some kind of veterans. something that would
Veteran
benefit
services.
veterans, but he has since completely disappeared. I don't know if he's in New
He
York
must be a veteran,
anymore.
right?
He is a veteran.
So it benefited.
Wow.
Over half of it.
Wow.
But you
Yeah,
just started
yeah,
with
I mean, I don't. Like, I think quarterly, pretty much, we try to like track down sex sales rate, you know. Yeah, it's,
I would imagine so, yeah.
We can search.
As-
I don't know if I've occurred, well, they're just wrapping, do we have an address for him?
No,
We know
no,
where he is?
we do
No,
not.
we don't know where he is.
Yeah, that was a little bit complicated.
Which one is this? I'm sorry.
Sex Salisbury.
The other one
In a meeting.
is the COVID loans, this, and I mean, that's.
That is the holiday, and so their payments started in February, so, or, no, I'm sorry, their payments started in March, they paid in March. DPG Holdings has paid off.
Paid off.
Yep, they paid off, they sold the building, so they paid off.
Courthouse, bed and breakfast.
Any other questions on the financials?
There's just one, unfortunately, 3i Graphics has a loan with us. And unfortunately, it's changed.
The loan. The loan has not changed.
Eric passed away.
Right, that,
So how, is that something you need to talk to the other partner about?
yes, I need to look into the loan documents, which I'm doing. I didn't want to try to get in contact with them this week because the funeral was this week.
Yeah,
but
no, I understand. It's just,
yeah, we're gonna look into the loan documents and see what, if anything, changes. I mean,
that's a shame.
yeah, it's a bad situation, obviously, but we're,
Might
yeah.
have to change.
Really wants to hold you. Any other questions on the financial report? No.
All right, on the new business, we've got two resolutions. The first one is authorizing the president of the BLDC to purchase directors, officers, and fiduciary liability insurance for the BLDC Board of Directors from UDIC. Anything, this is pretty straightforward, I think, right?
Do it
Every year.
Okay, all right, I'll make the motion. Thank you, Brian, give a second, Mr. Saul, thank you. Any questions, comments, issues, problems, observations? All right, all in favor? The second one is a resolution authorizing the president of the BLDC to enter into a real estate option agreement with BTCNY LLC for Charles Street Business Park, North number 2. Sarah, do you want to
Yes,
talk about this a little bit?
this is the option for Bates Troy, so upon executing this and then signing it, we'll have a year-long option with them on that lot. They're looking to, discuss, but they're looking to expand their commercial dry cleaning operation. They want to build a new building. Cost estimates originally were around $17 million for the building. It may have changed, but looking to really see an uptick in business in their healthcare living specifically. So they want to have the facility automate some of those processes and be able to have more output out of that. So we'd love to have them at Street Business Park, but of course they have to do their due diligence to figure out what's best for them. And this option gives them the time they need to do that. Restoration.
The things we discussed last time, did they accept all that, or?
Yep, so it's moved from 2 years to 1 year, and I believe we upped the amount of money that they owe us on execution of the option, which is $10,000. With an optional 1 year renewal, it's an additional $5,000. Yep. We have that.
I believe it was 35,000.
35,000.
Yeah, we went back and forth on that.
So yeah, that is in the agreement. Yep.
Whatever that is.
It's 4.9 acres at 35,000.
I noticed in paragraph 8 says that we will provide them with an abstract. Have an abstract title and abstract.
That is a great question. I will see if
You
we
may have
have
the
one in our.
contract to have an abstract created because I suspect that was taken through tax foreclosure.
No, we got that. Because we got it from the IDA.
The idea would have been.
Yeah, I understand the ag. My recollection
Okay.
is that passed into government hands, which end up in the IDA through tax foreclosure. These there may not have been an abstract.
I don't know.
No, it went from Brandenburg to the IDA.
You think so?
Yeah.
It's a good.
Well,
question.
you're right.
Kodak-
We just need to
Kodak
ask if we have an
Polychrome.
abstract in hand or where it is, track it down.
It went
Because
from
we're
Kodak
obligated to provide it
Polychrome.
within 30 days. We don't want to spend 30 days scrambling to try to get it.
Yeah, there was a lot of money put into the park by the idea. I don't think that the state would have made those investments without having some kind of title work done on that. But I think it's a good question.
We should track it down if you figure out where it is.
Yes.
It's a good question. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Don't put that in. Well, I like words. Anything else on the agreement that you wants to bring up?
Legal went through it and everybody went through it, right? The agreement.
I think it's been like,
Yes.
so hearing that, all in favor?
Oh, someone needs to
Need
make
a
a
motion in a
motion.
second.
First, I'll second.
Chuck. Sorry, I jumped the gun. All in favor? Anybody opposed? It's great to see some action over there. Charles. It's been a number of years, so
This would be a great project. Because this is the first one, the first one was Emerson, right? And they left. And Save a Lot was that, Save Around,
Sit around.
so they took over the Emerson property.
Right.
All right, so this is our first like deal in a long.
there's some other stuff that's in the works too, which is also pretty.
Oh, yeah,
exciting.
no.
We've got some,
It's nice to have one that's
Yeah.
firm on paper.
it's
It's a good established Binghamton. And a good established Binghamton company.
Yeah,
Oh,
my,
yeah.
my understanding is they want to keep their
Investing. in
Laurel
it.
Street facility operational. They just want to move a lot of their industrial healthcare,
Makes sense.
yeah, and do some smaller scale stuff.
For growing.
Well, they have such issues with their trucking at the Laurel Street location. It's just so hard with that tiny roads and the residential properties there. Don't love all the trucks coming in and out. They've had some crashes.
Now, they're
Out the back,
responsible,
Yeah.
they're responsible for the new infrastructure like the water pipes and sewage, or do we have to provide that?
I don't think we have to provide it. I think would probably be part of the conversation of what the city or the BLDC could come to the table on, but I don't think we're obligated to.
I don't,
provide it.
sure what's already there.
There's stuff
We have to change the-
So then we'll just tie it in.
I'm not certain of what they took Amtex, all of Amtex infrastructure out. They weren't still in good condition or not usable. There may be some of that split there. Also, they had to run that stuff to Emerson. This lot is not so that far from where Emerson was.
The biggest problem is what is over there in the Hanover Valley. Like over at Water Street, that's one of the things, is the water pipes and sewer lines we have over there is gonna be big enough to handle them.
Which was not designed.
Oh, I think with it, I think it will be fun.
No, it wasn't original.
So we had a meeting of the Strategic Priorities Committee
Monday.
Monday this week. Because it's a year. know. Sarah, you're gonna walk us through.
Yeah, I can
Summary
I
of
can go
that.
through what we talked about. So broadly speaking, we are looking to support four large-scale overarching programs. So one would be, as we discussed earlier, modifications to our current loan program to support loans and be more competitive compared to private lenders. So one of the things that Patrick mentioned in the Strategic Priorities Committee is that our loan terms are pretty, they almost self-select people out because of how much we require upfront, fully collateralized loans. Our interest rates are competitive, but not anything to write home about. So what can we do to make those more flexible? And Patrick had mentioned maybe having guardrails around the program, but not necessarily requirements that every single one has to meet, so that we can get more people to come to the table to even ask us for loans and then be able to work with them individually. We haven't determined what exactly those guardrails would look like, but I could imagine that we would look at the total loan portfolio and decide what our risk tolerance is. We only want to take on 10% with an interest rate of 0, no more than that. We want to take on 20% that are maybe not traditionally bankable, and the rest we want to be really, really secure. I'm just throwing numbers out, but we would essentially decide what those guardrails are, and then each individual loan would be considered individual. That's not decided yet. That was just what was discussed in the Strategic Priorities Committee to try to make them more flexible. But I think anything we can do to make our loan program more competitive compared to traditional financing is what we should be doing and aiming for. And we're able to take more risks because we have this public money that's supposed to be supporting our low and moderate income communities and business owners. So if we can try to get more money out the door, that's always a good thing. As long as we're doing it within the parameters of our risk tolerance. Any questions on that piece specifically? We also talked about mechanisms to fund commercial facade renovations and key commercial corridors. I know it was important to the mayor to include our neighborhood commercial districts in that, especially in any way that we market it, looking at Clinton Street, the West Side Commercial District, East Side Commercial District, South Side Commercial District, and spreading that money outside of downtown as well as supporting our downtown core. We also talked about a mechanism to support minority and women-owned businesses, both new and existing. So I have a meeting today actually with someone on CARE's team to discuss their Support Black Business 607 accelerator program that they've been working on and how the city can potentially partner on that. So that's something that I will bring information back to the BLDC and we can talk about how best to support that effort or any other efforts. Also, something we can talk about in terms of our loan portfolio is kind of what's our goal for supporting minority women-owned businesses within our loan portfolio. What percentage are we really aiming for? And in what ways could we be more flexible in those loans for folks that traditionally don't have access and are cut off from capital and therefore can't necessarily start businesses at the same levels. And then finally, and this is a little bit more down the line, and it has a lot of more economic development office work needs to go into it, but financial support for pre-site development costs. So we've been talking with a number of public sector partners who have money available to do surveys, phase 1 and phase 2 environmentals, small amounts of site prep and environmental cleanup, working to develop funding packages to go after some strategic parcels, to put together packages that we can then go to developers with and say, hey, we've got this clean bill of health in terms of the survey and the environmental, and get them to the table on that. To your point, Ron, one of the things we had talked about internally was, could we recoup that money, if it's a BLDC or city-owned property that we're doing that on and RFPing out, we then recoup those costs in that as part of the purchase price would be whatever money we put into it up front, but gives a developer a clean bill of health to start with. That was most of what we talked about. We're going to have those meetings once a month. Usually they're going to be the week before the BLDC meeting is what we're aiming for. These are all ideas and try to get them into actual practice over the next few months and decide what we want to do.
Any thoughts on grants?
Which one specifically?
Well, you talked about facade, but at that meeting, we talked about granting people money for the facades now, not just the.
Yep, so we could look at either grants or loans. I think either way we would want the business owner, the building owner to come to the table on a match of some kind, whether it's 50-50 or whatever our tolerance is.
I volunteer my bill. I know it sounds stupid, but I mean, I need to put on a new roof and I need some facade work. I certainly can afford it, thank God. But I would, if you wanted to use it as a template what makes most sense to do it, because it's the most secure you're gonna get.
Right.
There's no debt on anything. And, you know, maybe 25, 30, 45, but if you wanted to use it as a guideline, yeah, I'm gonna hopefully, do it sometime, do it this year, as soon as we can figure out whose roofers are working. But-
And that I would definitely defer to our legal team on in terms of mixing and uses there.
Oh, as long as I follow I was a board member when I bought the building, and I used the BLDC for up to 30%. And
I'll
yeah,
do
it
whatever
was
Brian
just,
tells me to do. But yes, no, I
I'm
think,
research, but I think
well, if I'm paying you back, I'm not expecting a full grant, but a low interest loan in part, if you can work like facade as a grant and the rest as a loan, whatever.
yeah,
I
I
thought you could
hear
have
what
to
you're
look at
saying,
my
it's a-
building and say, how do we work these
Concept.
it would
components?
probably be better to work out what the program is gonna be and see whether you fit it rather than fit the program to you.
yes,
That would
I,
great,
No,
Rob.
I-
Yeah,
I-
that-
If you look at a building and say, these are the places we can do this.
no, it makes sense to have a proof of concept to point to and say, hey, this is what we're trying to support, who has something like this that we can do, but yeah, I think we
Because it was very successful way back when.
There are a number of areas that are really in need of facade support, so.
We just gotta come up with the right program.
Right. Yeah, so that's something that we need to do internally is kind of look into benchmarking against other facade programs. And I know I worked on one when I was at the state that Johnson City was doing, and it wasn't a bad program, but it was very, very heavily bureaucratic, and they were working on it for like 2 years with me. And it was just like dragging, and business owners and the property owners were like, I've already done the work, like, where's my money? So we want to try to avoid anything that's like that while still doing our due diligence, ensuring that everything holds up under scrutiny.
Well, Joel just did last year, 2 years ago, the Main Street.
2016.
Did that work out well?
Yeah, I think it worked out
The
quite
and
well.
the
I
end
mean,
results are,
There's visible results there,
Yeah.
certainly.
I know it was bureaucratically
Yeah. that was
frustrating,
a handful.
but yeah, I think the end result is great, that whole area.
Sarah, I think the important aspect of it is I was down in Tioga County when 2011 got flooded, and they did a lot of facade work grants. I think it was 2013. And how it was rolled out to the people was not, it was very confusing for them.
Mhm.
Okay, besides the paperwork, what they could do, what they couldn't do. They had to use some MWBEs and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Got people frustrated. So I think whatever we do, we have to figure out what we have to do and make sure everyone's aware of it.
And that's, I'm gonna be relying on Steve in terms of what's eligible and not eligible. For instance, I talked to Steve about, does power washing count as an eligible? And yes, he's shaking his head no, because as its own expense, we couldn't fund like a power washing program just to clean facades through this. But that could be potentially included in a larger budget to do, repointing and masonry work. So yeah, I think knowing upfront what we can and cannot do, making that very, very clear is helpful. But I know that New York Main Street has the same issue. There's like just so many things you can and cannot do, and people, but there are things you have to do a project. So it gets confusing where the line starts and stops. So to the extent that we can make that easier, we would certainly want to do so.
Generally, your New York State grants, ironically, are going to be stricter than the federal grants.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
So I think your point's well taken, Chuck. We can try to make this as simple as possible, not overcomplicate and overarching it.
We'll work on that. I think
Yeah,
we want to do a facade program.
Yes.
Figure out how to set that up and make it as efficient and effective as possible.
absolutely.
And learn from the lessons that mistakes or whatever that happen.
Yeah. And to put the program together, of course, if you wanted to apply and it fit within the program, I think we could talk about how that would work. We want you here. We also know you're a downtown business owner.
Well, no, I'm more than happy to help any way I can.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm gonna do it anyhow, but if you want to do it and show how the program would work, the moving parts. I mean, I'll go out and get bids and show you, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm here to help, that's all.
You just got 3 calls. All just wanted a suit.
All right,
You just got 3 calls. All 3, they wanted a suit.
Okay, so the mayor is not here. He did send an email yesterday. And I won't read through this too much, but he sent everybody a copy of the IDA's uniform tax exemption policy update. I won't get into that too much, but they made some changes around residential projects, and I mean it gets complicated, but we've got the policy. We can talk about that at some future date if we need to. He also put in about the Clinton Street business district revitalization plan RFQ. The RFQ has been issued to assist in creating Clinton Street neighborhood business district plan for the purposes of applying for the next round of DRI from the state, which is the downtown revitalization initiative. And then the last thing he had was the conversations with Boscov's are continuing. So it's an ongoing discussion about what they're prepared to do, what the city's prepared to do, what the state's prepared to do to keep them there. So that's the mayor's report. I couldn't do it as well as the mayor. That's the mayor's report. So, thoughts, questions on that? Great. Sarah, did you have anything else you wanted to?
Yes.
Okay.
So just to add on to Mayor Kraft's comments, with the uniform tax exempt policy, Mayor and I met with Stace Duncan from the agency, and Patrick was there as well, to discuss the policy, and we're confident that the changes will ensure that the municipality and the public benefit is always in front of mind in all of those pilot agreements. So I think the schedules and the rate changes and the pulling out residential, different types of residential from the pilot schedule and creating its own is really good. It will make the process just that much more convenient and simple and easy to understand for our end users. Have less of those deviations that can be a little bit dicey and more standard pilots. He also reported on the Clinton Street Neighborhood Business District Revitalization Plan RFQ, which we're going to need to find a shorter name for. I think it technically goes out in the street tomorrow. Once that goes out, I can forward that to all of you just to take a look at it if you're interested. It's a pretty basic planning study, just getting basically the land so that we can put forth a very strong downtown revitalization initiative round 6 proposal, which we are thinking will come out in the fall or early winter, but we don't know 100% from Department of State when that's happening yet. It won't be decided until after the budget's passed. I did talk to the Department of State, and they are very confident that neighborhood commercial districts will once again be eligible under the DRI. That was a change that they made for round 5, and they're pretty sure they'll continue it for round 6. We're not sure what the amount of money is yet. Last round was you were able to have 2 $10 million awards within a region. Yeah. But we're not sure if it'll go back to 1 or if they'll continue to have 2 in order to fund this planning effort, the mayor's office, my office, and Steve in HUD administration are working on advancing an action plan amendment. Because the money is coming, the money is going to be coming out of the revolving loan fund where we have that excess of $1 million in that account. In order to move that money to pay for this, we have to make an amendment to our action plan for CDBG. Requires a 30-day public comment, has to be approved by council, has to be approved by this board. So we're advancing that. We're looking to get that out for public comment next week. It would go forward May 4th for approval by council. And we would bring that to the April meeting for any approval from this group. We're hoping to also bring the selected consultant to this group for approval in April, assuming that the RFP process goes well. So speaking of that revolving loan fund, the city reserves the right every year to draw down the BLDC's revolving loan fund to $500,000. It enables us to take money that is overall subject to time limits from CDBG. So after that $100,000 for the DRI, any potential money that we might need for a facade program, we're going to have a couple $100,000 that can go towards CDBG eligible economic development projects. Because that money is coming from the BLDC, we really want to make sure that whatever the end use is aligned with what the BLDC wants to do. So we are going to be having that conversation over the next week or so internally internally, and we'll reach out to you guys once we know what direction we're moving in, so that we can get concurrence from the BLDC that what the end use of that money is something that's supported by this group. I think that's everything from me. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, one last thing, and I will defer to Joel on this. We have our business plan competition that we talked about last time. We also have restaurant week coming up. Do you want to provide any updates on those?
This plan competition is underway. I was announced at the last board meeting, we had a press conference with Mayor Graham. We and representatives from the Kaufman Southern Tier Incubator, thank you, Fair, and the SUNY Broome Entrepreneurial Assistance Program. The competition has a $7,500 prize list. First place in it is $5,000, second place $2,000, third place $500. There are a number of milestones in the event. The first coming up here, we have a workshop next week. This is to help a wide gamut of potential applicants for the business plan competition to help orient them toward creating a business plan. This competition draws people from the city of Binghamton, draws potentially businesses that are over in the incubator, or businesses that have been in existence for up to 5 years, and gets them oriented thinking about putting together a business plan. And the business development workshop, which will be held online next Wednesday from 5 to 7:30, has a number of speakers in it to discuss things like business financing, that being presented by Merlin Joseph, who is a very seasoned banker from Key Bank over on the west side. It goes back to Marine Midland Bank days. Cheryl Fabrizi, who's one of the lecturers with the SUNY Broome Entrepreneurial Assistance Program, talks about marketing plan and strategies. The entrepreneurship mindset presentation is presented by Evelina Holdridge, the owner of IdeaCraft, who was our 2014 BLDC business plan competition winner. We have a section on the legal aspects of organizing a business, presented by Sam Blakely from Coughlin and Gerhardt, one of our sponsors for the competition. Then our final segment about pitching your business has two of our recent business plan competition winners, Sarah Liu with Parlor City Vegan, who was the winner in 2018, and Jacob Kumpan with Claw Industries, who was last year's winner of the competition. And we are at this point have 15 people signed up for the workshop, and are any and all that the board or others can do to help get the word out about the competition and workshop is certainly welcome. It's already out on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, thank you, and website, and more hooks we can get in the water, the better.
The restaurant week starts next week.
Restaurant
We have a
week,
couple of
yes, I'm
posters
sorry,
around it.
we-
No,
Yeah, Restaurant Week, there's a press conference tomorrow
Forum.
at the Forum. The Restaurant Week, this is of course organized by Eat Bing, which is the restaurateurs of the city of Binghamton, primarily in the downtown. Businesses such as a Lost Dog Cafe in Little Venice spearhead this. They have every year, twice a year, they have Restaurant Week in the spring and the fall. They have also as there's a 25 cents off the, I believe it is off the receipt from every sale goes toward a charity. This year it's going toward Friends of the Forum, and that to purchase a new awning to go over the entry area there as you face the Forum over on the left side, where all of us go through security and so forth to enter into the Forum, to create a new awning for that. That will be quite attractive. So I believe the conference is tomorrow morning at 11:30 over at the forum.
We have posters in our office if anybody wants to take one and put it up in your place of business.
The banner going up in front of Saul Stearns actually shortly, and promoting our restaurant week. Of course, all to encourage restaurants generate a lot of economic activity. They employ a lot of people, frequently improve a lot of older buildings in the downtown. They're a reason for people to make Binghamton a destination and to shop and see what Binghamton has to offer, and all deserve our hearty support.
And I'm sure everyone's seen the prices at every restaurant they go to are going up. I mean, the supply chain right now is really hurting our restaurant owners, so anything we can do to support them is great. I believe, I haven't checked yet, but I'm pretty sure council approved, maybe Joe knows, the extension of premises for the sidewalk cafes last night. So we'll be able to get those permits out the door, and we'll see the vibrant downtown dining scene, hopefully, that we saw last year as well.
Thank you both very much. Further, anything else you want to bring up this morning?
We're co-hosting a presentation on historic tax credits, March 30th. It's online. Did you get everything posted?
Yeah, so that's on our Facebook. We're advertising it. It seems like a really cool program. I was looking into
It's a
all the stuff
workshop.
from.
Surgeon New York and Sean from the City of Binghamton are co-hosting this workshop on how to apply, qualify. There's things you can't do.
And we have seen in our pre-development meeting, Sean's been asking anyone who's looking for historic tax credits if the increase from New York State has been impacting their decision to come in, and they've all been saying yes. The increase in the tax rates from New York State has been a huge push towards them finally doing some restorations on buildings. So that'll be a great event.
We're also holding a public meeting for the potential expansion of the historic district from just going up to state and district. So I think there's about 16 properties that will now potentially be included, which they already have to meet the restrictions because they're adjacent. But this will now give them the opportunity to apply for the tax credit. So this will be held at the same meeting. So tax credit workshop, and then we're going to have a public meeting. March 30th.
Go to the business plan competition workshop, and then you can go to the preservation workshop.
Thanks. Motion for adjournment.